909 drums are going to be king in the style of Eurodance, modern and in the past. However, feel free to experiment with any style of drum set you want. So in Ableton, if we go into the drum section, we're going to find the 909 chord kit, and we're going to be using that for today's video so that you can start making Eurotrance like your favorite producers. From there, the first thing we're going to need is the bass drum hitting on the beat. When people say this, what they're talking about is hitting on the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. Boom, 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 boom. That's how we know it. So if you need a bit of a guidance, set it to 1/4, press B to go into write mode, and start just dropping the beat on the bass drum like so. From there, we should have something that sounds like this.
Let me take you to...
Ignore my vocal for now. Okay. Now in Ableton, we have something called velocity, which can be found at the bottom here. This is going to let Ableton know how hard you want something playing. Velocity is very useful for humanizing stuff, for adding groove, for adding syncopation. However, for your bass drum in this genre, all at 100. Run it loud, like so. Okay. From there, hitting Command or believe it's Alt 2 or Control 2 on PC will make the grid a lot shorter. So we can right click and go 1/8, or again, Command 2 or 1 to increase, Command 2 to decrease. I'm learning with you guys. So from here, B, open hat, very important one. This is going to be on the offbeat. Again, what people mean by this is in between the kicks here at the halfway mark. 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. As you can see here, 1.1.3. That's like the first little bar. Then 1.2.3. And I think you get it. So we can do that. And set it up. Recommend dragging it out like so. And now we have this. Now by pressing V in Ableton, we can increase our velocity. So if we do that again, boom, boom, our velocity will be at the desired velocity we want. So it's just an oopsie on my part, okay? So from there, Command or Shift right arrow key. Okay. Our clap will land on the 2 and the 4. So what that means is on the 1.2 and the 1.4, okay? So this is usually common sense. I think most people know how to drop this. This is the traditional beat we want, but from here, there's a lot of variables that come to play depending on the song you want to create. So I always encourage you to experiment, okay? For instance, you can start to use samples tailored towards the genre you're making. For instance, I can grab, let's say, this clap loop and layer with this just to make the clap sound different than everyone else's. I could also grab a top loop or a cymbal loop and layer it with that. Yeah, and that will change the vibe up completely. You can also add percussion like a whistle. Yep. All of this is going to be your job as a producer to kind of go, okay, you know, I have the basics down, which is the 909 basic beat. But what else do I want to add to this? What is my idea in my head? And if you don't know, what I recommend is that you just drop it in. If you like the vibe of that, drop the vibe and go with it. So for instance, here I have this vocal I recorded from this pack, sample pack coming out this week called Bappy Trance, which I made. It's actually me.
Let me take you to the top where the fucking DJ rocks, where the bass hits hard and the crowd never stops. Let me
So again, on that, you know, like I might decide to use the whistle just to make it more ravey, right?
Let me take you to the top where the fucking DJ rocks.
So we can add that. So from here, I can also input a close hat. And the close hat will usually be landing on the ands of the beat. You can also make it roll. The ands just means the in-betweens the beat and the offbeat. So if we had to count, it's beat and offbeat and beat and offbeat and the reason it lands on the ands is, as you'll see, it makes it more groovier. All right, if I put this here, boring, so you can see how that, so now we can start to fill it up. right? Very swell, very easy. From here, we can increase the length of our loop by going here and hitting 2. We can do Command A, Command D. And if you want to add more, you can. If you don't, you can go now to a length of 4. Similar, Command A, Command D. And then here I would probably do something on the 4th beat at the end of it here in order to create a turnaround. And this usually is the thing that separates beginners from intermediates to advanced. It's the way that they create these turnarounds. Like you can do an open hat accent, which means you stack up on the offbeat of this last hit so that you create this effect. You know, and that brings it to life. You can also do it every 2 and 4 if you choose to, like so. Maybe a double clap it, you know, see? And that's the difference. You can also start using the snare drum more. Wrong one. Wrong snare too. Like so, and now we can make the snare just a little quieter. That was a randomization. So we have this now. I'm just quieting down some of the drums here, the levels. I know it looks kind of complex, but it's just volumes. It's just that it looks a little weird. Maybe there's a way I can elongate it more, but I think if I hold Alt or something, click Option, click, drag. There we go. Just swell, you know, breathe, create the idea, don't rush it. That whistle's getting a little annoying. There we go. So now we create the fundamental part of a Eurodance track, which is the bass. Now the bass has to be either an offbeat, a rolling bass, something that will create like a trance feel. This is why we call it Eurodance or modern trance, right? So I'm going to give it to you guys in 2 ways. The first way is that as a producer with like years of experience, I'm not trying to flex or anything. When I'm working on music, I'm always trying to increase my speed of writing, because flow or creativity is when you write music and you don't think about what you're doing. You're just writing, right? And that's what we would call flow. The problem though is that a lot of us during the learning phases as beginners, right, we don't know how to do stuff. So we lose the flow because we're like, how do I do this? How do I do that? So our job is to learn so that we can stay in flow longer. As you get better, you want to get sounds that are ready to go, that sound good, boom, like that. So going through and using presets is a great way to do that, to get into flow. Now, you don't have to use the preset as the last, you know, like that's the finalization of the sound, but you use it to help you get the idea rolling. Okay, so for instance here, I can easily go use this preset, which has already been processed, in order for me to just go, hey, you know, I'm just going to do this because I know I need it. And get straight to the important part, you know, writing the hooks of the song. You know, that's the power of presets. That's the power of using what you have at your disposal. This is why people will spend money on presets or spend money on samples. So don't fall for the trap of prideness. A lot of people will try and get you to fall into this trap of like, you got to do everything yourself. You don't. I think it's good to learn and understand it. But even me as a sound designer, professional sound designer for 15 years, again, I'm not trying to flex. I'm just trying to, again, teach you guys here. When I write music, I'm not using sound design. I'm all in writing mode, and I don't want to touch sound design, especially if I don't know what I want. Just putting that out there, okay? So to create your own bass, we can use one of the synths that Ableton offers. Okay, there's a couple, but I like the Wavetable one a lot more than the rest. It just has a lot more features. From there, by default, you should have a square and a saw up here. What I'm doing here is going through a wave shift. I'm essentially scanning the wave that we have, and these are just shapes that produce a sound. The square one and the saw are the more popular ones in Eurodance. In fact, square and saws are most popular waves, period. Don't let the dubstep guys fool you, because every sound will come from them most of the time. Very anthemic, good for leads, good for bass, very harmonic full. Okay, and then you can get into that stuff later on. So we can go with a square for this one. I'm a fan of a square. And we're going to program an offbeat. Now, the offbeat, similar to the open hat, right? We can right-click and go 1/8, and it will land always on the offbeat, on the 0.3 here. So we have to pick a key that we want to be in. Okay, now, a little advice from an old man. The lower the key, the grittier the bass. The higher the key, the more friendlier and more subby the bass. Knowing that, let's go with A minor, which will give us a bass that's a lot more happier. And we can start hitting this here on the offbeats for now. Okay. Now we go play. From there, we can grab, shift down. We want to be at the optimal range for our bass because a lot of people will do this, which is no bueno. And we do that. Now that's where we want to be at because that's where the low end's going to be at. You know, you went too far when the bass sounds way too gritty. Okay. From there, we need to shape the bass. The offbeat bass only comes to life when it's properly programmed. Again, this is where the serum presets and samples come into play. But if you're going to do it yourself, important thing is for you to know how to program the dynamics of this bass. Sustain all the way down or halfway. Decay is the more important one. That controls the punch of the bass. Okay. Now, once I have it there, if you're scared that the bass might be too weak, you can leave the sustain somewhat up to maintain the shape. From there, the release by default, move that down. Like so. Let's turn mono mode on. That just means one note can be played, and it also activates a retrig, which is very important for bass line so that the bass always hits the same. As we were talking about, right now we're using a square wave, and that wave is going in a journey from left to right like this. So the phase, the timing of it, okay, can change as we play in poly mode. If I set this to mono, then that makes it so that we always start at the beginning. We essentially call this a retrig, and we need it for our bass. Always sound strong, always sound the same. Now we use a low pass filter. This is what we call subtractive synthesis. We remove the high frequencies, bam, and now we get something that sounds good. Now, as a producer, right, you're watching this tutorial and you're following along probably. And if you are, dope. But you need to have the confidence to make music. That's number one, okay? We are always looking for people to kind of guide us, but you have to set the vibes. So the reason I bring this up is because from here, again, in music, there's so many variables in how you do stuff. I can choose to open this guy up to create a punchier bass at the expense of a little bit of the warmth that we have created. In order to do that, I can go into the matrix. And I don't know, I double click that. But we go into the matrix, we can click on this guy and you can see that clicking on it changes this guy here. That's the beautiful thing about Ableton is it allows for automation of stuff very easily. From there, I'm going to use envelope 2 to open this. As I click and I pull up, I'm telling this that I want to open it to the right with an envelope. An envelope is known as a modulator and it moves stuff for us. And we're using envelope 2. So that means this guy's going to open the filter up. The way it does it is dependent on the ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, and release. If I lower my sustain down all the way, similar to the volume, you know, I'm going to have my decay controlling a lot of the punch of this modulation amount, right? This is where it becomes clutch because the combination of this and, again, this can dial in the bass of my dreams. And that's it. Pull it down. Easy peasy. There we go. And as simple as that. Okay, now what I want to do is set this to around 4, and I want to start to create either a progression if I'm choosing to make a melodic song, or just dial it across like that. So if I have this vocal,
let me take you to the top where the fucking DJ rocks, where the bass
then I probably don't want to get too melodic with it. However, how do I spice this up? Well, if I go into 16 mode, this is how things change now, because now I can start to double time on certain notes.
Let me take you to the top where the fucking DJ rocks, where the bass hits.
Like so, in order to make it sound more interesting.
Let me take you to the top where the fucking DJ rocks.
In fact, again, as a producer, making music's easy. It's the technical side that's a little hard. Maybe here. We both feel the vibe, right? We can maybe go up a note. Okay, cool. So we have that, right? Now let's say that we want to get melodic, because I think melodic's the easiest one to do in a sense, because vocals are very hard to come by. So that's what we're going to go with, but you get an idea on how you would make this interesting. But in Eurodance, you can switch the bass up as well. It doesn't have to just go offbeat. It can do stuff like this, which is a little bit more for the melodic guys. So that's just a very basic setup. Right, and then I can start to move this around if I want to get melodic. So let's put the scale here. Now, when it comes to the bass, I recommend that you use scale mode if you're starting out, and just move up and down, and again, get a sense for what you hear and try and just make stuff that sounds good to you. It's just that simple, see? Moving the stuff around, that's all. Then what I can do is duplicate this across, and I can grab this note and elongate it like so, because this is the bottom note of what we would call a chord progression. Usually, about 80% of the time, this note, right, it belongs to a bigger picture, a chord. And a chord is it's a combination of notes that you play together. This is how I make them. 1, 2, 1, 2. I have my chords there. And if you have a scale feature set on like this, then you just have to do this. But this is a chord selection of notes that sound really nice together, and they really bring life into a song, because from here I need to create a pad. Now, pads are very time consuming to create, so I would recommend that you either, one, again, presets, or two, just use maybe a preset from Ableton. Let's see if we can find one that's nice. Go 1920 here. This is for me. Let's try that. We just threw a bomb, bro. All right. Okay, see, very simple, right? Nothing hard. Music's not hard. Don't let them fool you. Let's use a chord, though. I need a pad. In fact, I'm just going to look a pad like this in the instruments. Maybe we'll find a good one. The greatest pad. That's nice. There we go. I like this one because it has that gate. The gate is pa 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 pa. Let's use an LFO from Ableton. This is an effect that moves stuff for us. It's an LFO, low frequency oscillator. We can get into the history of that on our next date, but we can map it to stuff like the sync. Could slow it down with the rate, that's the speed. Just bring it to life so it doesn't sound so static. Like that. And then I can hit list mode and add it to a lot more things. There we go. That's coming to life. Dude, I'm adding this to everything. Maybe not so much on the attack. Now I'm done. Okay, so again, you can do that, or we can go back to the offbeat, which I think I'm going to go back just because I know some people might go like, this doesn't sound like the kind of Eurodance I hear. Get all kinds, so we can do that, but I feel like the offbeat's it's going to be the more like Euro trance one, like, oh, okay, that's it. So let's go back to it. Okay, now we need a lead or an ARP melody. If you want to add that, we can copy that over. Now we need an ARP there. So again, we go instruments, ARP. Maybe we'll find something nice here. And then the cool thing is Ableton has some really nice features, but let's try it. If we use that, let's go MIDI effects, arpeggiator, 16th. But now we need a good sound for it. So if we can't find a good one, we might have to make it, which wouldn't be too bad. I like that. That's beautiful. I like that. Now let's add a melody. Okay. So if you notice here, all I've done is I've copied the bass over to create chords out of the bass. I have what is known as a closed voice chord progression here. So if I ever feel like this gets too muddy, you can grab that middle note and shift up. This is what we would call an inversion. Now the top note is what's leading the harmony on this. Usually this one is more melodic than the other. From there, I have this ARP that's following the chord progression as well. I'm going to shift it up an octave. Now we can bring in and use a melody. So for the melody lead in Eurodance, usually it's either, like I said, a square or a saw. Now for this one, I am going to use one of my presets just because I want to speed things up. But also, I made a demo for you guys. This pack is coming out at the end of this week. It's called Poppy Trance. So it's inspired by Marlon Hofstad, DJ Heartstring, Varian Von Trax. And then I looked at various other artists as well in the genre that might be part of it, might not. But like, you know, Southstar has that hit song with Oliver Tree. Don't let them fool you. They knew each other. They just made a whole thing about it. But point being, I made this pack. I have a demo for you guys. It's free to download. So if you want to follow along, you can. You don't have to. Again, I'm just going to be using a very basic saw lead program, which is going to sound like this. But in fact, I might even just want this one. So I'm going to use this one. I really like the vibe of that. And I'm going to grab the chord progression and put it on the melody. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I make melodies, I'm not really making melodies like this. I find this way is a bit more like work. I like to have like a MIDI keyboard and just jam out, and whatever comes, comes. However, if I have a gig or I have to make samples or I have to like provide a melody for a big artist, I will use this method if I'm not inspired. So this is how it works. Okay. When creating melody, you want a bit of stability and instability. Stability means that you're playing a note that's part of this chord progression that we've just created. Okay. That's stable. When it's not part of it, that means it's unstable. The great Avicii, rest in peace, was a very stable melodic man. What that means is he would always follow the notes of the chord for his melodies. There's these two usually melodies that are very happy, very predictable, which is not bad. But again, you talk to you're in the music world for quite some time. You'll encounter the hard asses and the tryhards that will tell you otherwise. I always say just do what you feel is right and what you love and enjoy. Don't let anyone dictate the way you make your music. So if you like this, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is zero this out. First chord I'm playing right now is the A minor chord, A, C, and E. That means that if I make a melody, I can start my melody on the A, on the C, or the E. Or C, or A. Now, this is theory in the sense that these notes are very stable, and when you're on beat, aka, like boom, hitting with it, right? When the change happens, usually it's in your best interest to be very stable. However, this doesn't mean you cannot be unstable. Again, notes that aren't part of the chord. You can definitely do this, but you can already see that sounds ugh. But if you resolve it, that just means you go to a note that's stable, then it works. Because now the brain isn't like, ugh. No, you get the ah part to it, okay? Again, instability is fine as long as you get the stability back in. If you don't get the stability back in, then obviously you're torturing someone at that point, because watch what happens. Versus Nicer. See? E. So let's go with this. I'm going to use this rhythm. And let's go. Start A. And then what you see. Again, this is being very stable. And maybe we can move this down. And as I do this, I can change my mind, right? I can say, oh, in my head, I'm hearing this. Now we move to this here. Staying on the offbeat, very simple, right? And now from here, I can choose to go F, A, or C. And now we go to C, high C, so I can grab this similar melody here and bring that and leave that. It might sound good, or I can choose to go up by C to follow the chord progression, right? Now, in melodic writing, usually you want repetitiveness, and the way that we create this is by creating little sections of melody. And what that means is that this is the A part of the melody, which is that first bar. Then you have the B part, and then you go back to the A part, and then you end it with a C part, or you can go back to B. The C part, if you choose to use, will give you more variation. But if you go back to the B, you get more repetitiveness. So it's up to you to kind of decide what you want to do with it. See, so that one sounds off there. So I'm going to go up to C. And then we go to the D, F, and A. Dun, 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 dun. You know, it's something cool. Just kind of flow with it. And then we're D, F, and A, it looks like. Let's start. How about we go A, F, D, just go down that. I like the idea of something. I think I just gotta find the melody to land on. There we go. Now, if you don't like the vibe, you're like I said, you can always change it. For instance, here, this one's a little weird, the C to the D. It sounds kind of odd to my ear, so I might choose to go, you know what, let's do the E. And I have to switch it on all of them, of course, to do that. And again, this is just something you hear and feel. That's not good. So let's go back. Maybe D was the right choice. See, and this is a problem with music. You overthink. So you have to be careful not to overthink like I just did there. If you think like, oh, okay, this sounds kind of good, don't let, like the people are going to comment this or say that really deter you. Just flow, let it out, and work forward. From there, I'm going to start using other elements to bring it to life a bit. But the big one, of course, is always vocals. If there's any way to get vocals in, you get them in. From here, we're going to use this piano. A minor. So again, we can kind of grab the melody and see where we can accent it. This is just kind of like creating something that will flow with it at the same time. You know, we need something. Very happy, but we can also have the chords, the piano play the chords as well, which would be interesting actually. So we could probably do that by just grabbing this Command A, Command C, piano, Command A, D, boom. Let's just move that. We also had a bit of glitches to it. We dream it. Yep. Now I have the vocal warp it so that we can loop the vocal there. Just make sure that. Now, the way you would turn this into a song with arrangement is pretty simple. From here, we've been using the Ableton session view because it helps a lot in just getting the ideas down. From there, once you're ready, you can record it in. And now we have this. And this is the main idea of the song. So all we really want to do is work our way to it. Okay, so we know that's the climax of it. So when we start the song, we could start the song with just the piano playing chords like so. But what I probably want to do is grab everything, pitch it down more. Like that. It's beautiful. Now we can bring the drums as well. But now we just go back, right? Like we don't have to use everything. You just start off with the open hat or the clap. And apply an auto filter from Ableton. This is going to be an effect that will allow us to filter the drums a bit. So that way we don't give it out. Just like that. Now, if we want to use the vocal we picked and bring that in. Okay, and as you move to the right, you want to think about it like this. You repeat something twice, and then you move. Something has to be added. So now we can add the bass. You can also remove, so we can get rid of the piano. Okay, so we need more, obviously. So let's add the arp. We're gonna have like this pre-drop here. We know that, so let's just remove this. We're gonna add this nice pad here. Okay, now since we have these drums there, we can start to filter them up. And this is where it gets a little like interesting because we created the loop and the whole song is based on that loop. But now we have to add the in-betweens, you know, the little things that don't make it feel like a loop, like the build-up. We'll have the snare roll. The cool thing with the new Ableton is we have a ramp feature so we can go down. We're going to open that up as we approach. Yep. And now I need to Command J this because it went. Yeah, because we need that whole thing there like that. And we're just going to ramp up here. We do need noise effects. We need to drop into that. So let's grab some drums. Well, actually, I'm trying to use some noise. So I think I'm going to use the Ableton analog and just input some noise. And just a note across here to create our uplifter. Doesn't matter which one. Yep. We don't want the bottom one. Let's turn that off. This is creating noise, which is the basis of a lot of the effects in dance music. We can use a low pass filter with a high resonance to do that. And let's do that. Pick it up. Hit the effect. And now we're not going to drop with this, but we're going to duplicate this across, but we're going to drop with something like close to it, but you know, we hit that. We'll do that. Simple. Can you hear me now? Let's just use this part of the vocal. You drop. The piano a little too high up, so now we can check. And the funny thing is as you move, right, as you start to arrange out the song, you kind of realize some of the ideas you put maybe don't work as you move from left to right. So you might decide to remove them, right? So let's do that. You can even start this here. Or I think that sounds better, right? That's a pre-part to the vocal they've created. So we know we're gonna do that there. We might not even need the piano there actually, because the bass picks up the slap. I'm gonna use a crash. Again, there's a free demo that I've created for you guys for, you know, so if you guys want some sounds for free. There's a crash I added which I really like, so I'm just gonna use that for this. Oh yeah, it's just this. Look the difference that makes to the transition. Oh yeah. Now here on this filter, maybe we don't have to go all the way up. Let's get rid of the piano. Let's use the crash one more time, but let's not let it go all the way. We're just gonna filter it out like this. Or we use a 909, actually. It's a nice crash, but once you do something that bold, you can't really do anything else with it. So let's use the 909. Crash, there we go, here. It needs a little more tail, of course, so let's apply some echo to it. You can use reverb, echo to elongate samples, or, you know. And I want ping pong for width. Maybe now. Use the vocal, right? You can use parts of it here. There we go. to create this like transition. So we use this here, low pass or low cut. Sorry, this is what we call high pass. And we're going to remove some of the lows in that section. Here, you really want to create effects and stuff, like spice it up. So what I'm going to do is use what I have, reverse this guy and see if something neat comes out of this here. Crash. And then we get that like release, the chorus, the ooh to it, right? So we start over here. You can even have the arp there. And we can use an auto filter on this beautiful lead. Animation mode, move it up. Just to introduce it. Just like this. This is foreshadowing the melody. Here we can also spice up the build up. Ignore that. That's just the initial part. If we want to remove that, we just have to have the sustain up on this envelope. There we go. But we can also use a utility. This is an effect Ableton has that I recommend for doing volume automations, because then you have 0 here, which is our desired outcome, and then we start from the bottom. Hold Alt, and you can create really nice slopes. There we go. Let's add a chorus to this wall. This is going to create width. The chorus grabs the sound and duplicates it 3 or 4 times. It depends on the amount of voices it has. This one doesn't tell us. Yep. There you go. A little bit of width isn't too bad. We can click here to mute it as well. Boom, boom, boom. Mute. And mute over here, just in case. Coming. Fine tune a bit. I'll actually like these now, but we've forgotten to do the most important thing in dance music, and that is to apply a sidechain. A sidechain will reduce the volume of the sound depending on what we input in here, audio from, and most of the time it's the kick. So if you're using the 909 chord kit, you're going to insert that one, but now you're going to click here, and don't be, again, overwhelmed. We're going to go with the bass drum pre-FX and see if it works. And you can see it's the signal of the kick coming in. So now we go into peak mode, which is the type of the threshold that we're going to use. Peak will look at the peaks of the kick rather than the RMS, which is average loudness. And this is going to make it so that it's bouncy. You can also do this on the main melody, but on this one, we're not going to go as hard. Also, let's let out the full melody on this guy. We didn't go all the way up. Just the tip. Here, we can remove some of the drums on this section. Now, I apologize if I'm all over the place. Usually when I make these videos, I like to make them very raw, which is how I usually work and how most people will work. We're not sitting down with essentially like a note check going like, up, 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 nah. When we make music, it can get messy. It can be all over the place, right? But the important thing is that you're flowing, that you're moving, and that you are trying to keep the morale up. Because what you will find with music, and you will notice this in a lot of people, the more producers you talk to, and that is that they have a good sense of flow, but they lose flow when they start to compare, when they start to think too much, when they start to go, what so-and-so do that, what so-and-so do that. You lose the creativity. I think it's fair to think that way later on in the production, not at the beginnings of it, the fruition of it, right? Because you don't want negative thoughts. One of the things that I've realized, again, doing this professionally now and seeking that creativity, right, that I had when I was a beginner, is that the best songs out there, if you hear the lyrics, who wrote that? If you hear the idea, how does that guy think? And I think the point of it, and the realization I'm coming to is not that, it's not how did he think? It's more like, how did he not think? You know, the guy didn't judge the lyrics like, you know, strawberry fields, go into, what the hell does strawberry fields have to do with it? No one knows, right? But people will add meaning to it. People will admire it because I think at the end of the day, we're all fighting with our inner thoughts. And the fact that when you write music, someone can let go of that and not think and just write and be creative because they're not thinking, oh, does it sound like Tiesto or David Guetta or Marlon Hofstad? But instead, you're just writing, you know, and you have confidence to pull it off. I think that's what creativity is. So I'll bring that up, just again, showing you guys how we would go about in writing this stuff. I'm a little messy. I'm not organizing stuff. I apologize. But if I have to, offbeat bass, chords, gated, arp, right? We have our noise up, right? So here's our piano. We don't need to do melody, vocal, which again, I wouldn't pick in a sense, but we're using it for the tutorial. And you get the idea. Crash. 1, crash. 2. You can also add the noise here. Again, we can unlock this so that way I can just copy and paste this with all the automation. Move it all the way to the right. Here we can add a nice sustained string pad. What this means, it's a note that's held out. That creates tension, lets people know we're about to go somewhere. So for this, again, we can go instruments. Ableton has this one. Let's use that. And usually we're hitting the root note or the 5th, which would be the E. But again, I'm feeling something different. I'm feeling we go A, E, A, E. And let's go E. And these are just notes part of the scale. Just like that. I don't know what I did, but whatever. And then when we go next, right? So we repeated this twice again. Usually it's 4 bars, 4 bars. That gives us 8 bars. Now we go into another 8 where there's a climax. And then we're going to go into another section. So here you can choose to either 1. You know, we know we have to change because we repeat it twice. Boom, boom. Right? Melody repeated twice. So now, you know, we can either 1, go here and remove all the drums and just have the kick to create what we call a bridge. It's like the come down effect. Ignore that last clavin over here. Here we can like get rid of this. Repeat it twice. And guess what? Piano. We all know where we're going to go with that. Back to the piano. Now I'm going to go into the effects of this piano and add the low end back in. I like the low end. And the vocal has to come back in, but if we were being try hard about this, we would want the vocal here. You have it. I think this goes here, right? Or even this. Like just like that. And there you can come in with another idea, right? Like the arps. Let's leave this one on the A. Like that. Now for these effects of the vocal, I mean, there's a lot to do in this, and I'm trying in my head as I make this for you guys, right? I think I went overboard already here, but I'm trying to think, what do I need to show you guys that's important? Because I haven't done any other mixing or made it sound fat. I think that's, yeah, you want to have that, but that's more for like, that's not a Eurodance tutorial. That's a mixing tutorial, right? So writing of music, this is very simple, as you guys can see. You know everything, so it's just flowing. Repeat twice, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. This is the last thing I'll do, and I'm going to end the video here. But I hope that you guys had fun watching me. But we're going to automate this guy by clicking A. We're going to click here. Just those echoes. In character, we can find this thing called duck, which you can turn on and pull down. And now we can go ham on this. This will duck the echoes and delays, allowing the vocal to sit in the front, and then it will allow the effect in. Let's hit that crash there. Have a monologue. Okay, you grab this part of the... We know we're gonna head to this eventually. You're gonna have a build up here. Boom, it's gonna drop over here. We can copy and paste this if you want to be lazy. But again, this is usually what we're doing with music. Doing that. And then the same thing, but you do have to change stuff. That's the hard part. You add variation. That would be the climax of it. Yeah. So. Yep. Here you can remove everything. Now you add something new. You know, like the piano could have higher notes playing. You just gotta make sure it doesn't get too messy, you know, that's the important part. Even the vocal can go away, like that. Whoops, no, wrong notes. And again, I'm just playing notes on top of the piano here with my keyboard. Right. That's usually how I jam, by the way, but hear me now and then remove that there. So now we got that. Do that. Go crazy, man. That's the idea. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you made it this far, then you deserve to download this demo collection that I've created for you guys. It's going to contain a few sounds from the new Poppy Trance pack coming out at the end of this week. It's going to have a couple of loop samples to spice things up. For instance, I would use some of these in exchange of the ones we have. Clap loops. There's a lot. Have fun with it. I provided as well as 17 Serum presets that you guys can access. This one's Poppy Trance Volume 0.5 because it's not out yet, so that's why. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. I love seeing what you guys think. Again, we have free will. Isn't that dope? You can hate me, and that's fine. With that being said, you guys take care, and you guys have a great rest of your day.